So something I've heard a lot recently is this idea of exponential progress with regards to AI. And while I think there is some truth to the idea that models are getting exponentially better at generating answers, humans are still terrible at capturing evolving or latent understanding. And so the question that we should be focusing on solving is not how good can we make a model, right? What is that model with a 200 IQ, but more so, how do we design tools and systems and processes around human thinking and real world processes? And so that was the starting point for this app that I made, Sketchy. So models are really quite excellent at generating a large quantity of information, and they're good at the appearance of completeness. The appearance of completeness is, however, a bad thing because it constrains creativity and it discourages you from being actively involved. Let me give you an example. If you have a complex architecture diagram and are asked to review it, two things are going to happen. First, you're going to probably zone out a little bit, or you're going to have to really push yourself to focus and really read it. The second thing is if you identify problems with that architecture diagram, you're going to be focusing on localized optimization. Hey, can we make this call to an API async instead of synchronous, right? Those kind of solutions. And you're not going to question, should this entire architecture even exist? Can we just get rid of the whole thing? That is how you're going to be constrained. And the second problem is the truly valuable knowledge is not in a neatly formatted, clean paragraph of text. And it is not the output product. It is actually the process of that creation, right? It is the, let's say you have a 10 slide final PowerPoint deck, right? The VF. Well, the valuable part of that process was all the thought process that went into the 120 slides that are now in the graveyard, and your V47 that got you to that VF, right? So let's talk about the next part, right? Which is, hey, okay, we know that there are some issues with the current way that humans interact with AI, and to help try to solve those, right, we need to have a common language. Right now, the common language is text, and that is actually probably the second best option for every scenario, but a lot of times it's not the first. And as I want to try to use AI for increasingly complex problems that aren't something that you can just quickly describe in a text document, I want visuals. I want a way to understand and reason about it in a format that's intuitive to me. So let's talk about the existing corpus of diagramming tools. You have your AI-friendly ones, and to my knowledge, there's really only one in this category, which is Mermaid. Mermaid is basically a code-based representation of a diagram. And then on the human-friendly side, you have Excalidraw, which is this, Lucid/.io, and a physical whiteboard, which is probably my personal favorite. And then you have Visio, which frankly is not human-friendly or AI-friendly. But what you're seeing here is a distinct lack of anything in the middle. And if you are trying to solve complex problems with a diagram, something in the middle would be useful. All right, so Sketchy has a couple capabilities, but the one I want to quickly show is the OpenCode plugin. So I will go here. What I've provided here is just the very quick notes I had taken during a interview with a domain expert for a process that we were solutioning. And I'm just saying generate an Excalidraw diagram. We'll say keep it simple. Okay, so a couple things. What is OpenCode? OpenCode is similar to Claude Code or Codex, but just infinitely superior because they architected it much better with a client and server separation, which is why you can do cool things like have a web version, or you can do it through the TUI. And then you can see it's already finished generating, so let's get into it. And yep, most of this looks correct. The key part here, right, is all of this is still editable, right? You can modify and work with it yourself. And you could ask something else here if you wanted to. But what I want to show is okay. So we're just going to say at the end we want to send an email with the survey, and we'll connect that to this flow, and probably want it from here as well. Right, and what we're going to do from here is we're going to provide the document back to it. Keep in mind, this is going to change and really just be, hey, provide back a link. But in the meantime, let me paste this back and we'll go to there you go. You can say you added a new box, you added 2 green arrows. This is where you selected it from. And the important part here is you're probably already using OpenCode, or if you aren't, you should. And it's directly integrated with your workflow. So you're not like moving around or switching a whole bunch, and you get a much more integrated and seamless workflow. The whole goal here is allow people to interact with AI more efficiently, not add a extra SaaS product that you have to then work around to get any benefit. All right, who's this for? I have no doubt the developers are going to be the early adopters. Second group is people who are working with equally complex concepts, but aren't necessarily technical. Let's say you're in charge of business process optimization. You're at a company that has since grown 100x, and you have a lot of people like Billy Bob, who has been doing a job for the past 35 years, knows it inside and out, but he's about to retire. And so you need to get an understanding of what is happening today, identify if there's opportunities there, and make sure that you get that all before he retires. Okay. And so you'll have this conversation. And my view is ultimately you would plug it into 11 Labs or something like that and have the diagram get generated live in front of you. So as you're having this conversation, you're able to focus on the conversation, but everyone can still see the diagram. And maybe Billy Bob is like, no, that line should not be there. That's not how that works today. Great. You can understand it and improve and actually solve the right problem. So that leads us into the long-term vision. There's a couple areas. One is supporting additional input mediums. That's going to be things like image inputs. There's going to be live generation, like I mentioned, hooks into other applications. Even today, there are existing app or APIs that you can hook into. And the second area is the ability to expand specialization. Right now, we support 3 or 4 templates. There, I think, are 26 total established diagram types. In addition, I want to encode expertise, have individuals be able to, 1, create individual user diagrams or template types, and 2, have people who are like absolute experts in their field encode the validator rules for a certain like sub template or sub variation. So let me give you an example. We're going to go into another part of the app that I haven't yet shown, which is the icon theming capability. Right, so if you upload a pack of existing SVGs, you can then manipulate things like the roughness or the bowing. And then let's say you want to apply a pencil filter. Right, now you have a set of icons that are themed and look aesthetically correct for the flow. You take that, you export. Right now, Excalidraw is probably my recommendation. Soon, you would probably want to do Excalidraw lib, so you can have it shared across all your different architecture diagrams. Great. You now have that. Well, you can go a step beyond that, which is saying, hey, I want to actually encode validators that will catch mistakes before they even get created in the diagram in the first place. I'll give you an example. Within Palantir, they have the TypeScript V1 and V2 APIs, and there are some limitations and differences between the two of them. One of the ones that I find myself making a mistake on every single time is the V2 version does not support model imports. And I really only remember this when I go to the app, I try to do an import on the model, and it's like, oh, that button is not there. That can all be caught earlier on, right? So that is where I ultimately want to go with this. If you want to look through the code or contribute, this is the repo. I'm not going to go too deep into this right now, but your starting point is going to be the README. The OpenCode piece is currently just a set of files in an OpenCode folder. It will ultimately become an NPM package, so you can just add that one line into your OpenCode config and it'll install on runtime. Okay. The last thing is if you want to know what I'm working on or what's in the queue, that's the issue list. If you have a problem, make sure it doesn't exist here and then add the issue. I am open to outside contribution, but I'm not in the game of reviewing or testing other people's vibe coded slop. So if I see that, I will reject it, and I'll ask that you just create an issue instead. All right. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you have thoughts, please let me know. I really just want to get feedback on the idea, or even maybe just like the theory or the premise behind what I shared. And if you want to contribute, that'd be even better. So see you in the next one.